Hey friends, I'm here to show you how to debug your Gleam programs. I'm going to debug my Gleam program using the Node.js JavaScript interpreter. And to do so, we need a feature called source maps. Source maps is currently only available from this contributor's fork on this branch, feat source map JavaScript. I built this compiler by using cargo build, and then you can actually see the compiler in target dev target debug Gleam. Cool. So I'm running a custom version of the Gleam compiler. Next up, you need to head on over to a Gleam project. I'm doing Advent of Code, or at least some of it, this year. And I've got a program that just isn't working well. I personally don't like using IO debug statements everywhere and then also having to write serializers and just to get content onto the screen. I'd rather just inspect the memory, kind of jump around that memory, see what assumptions that I made incorrectly, and adjust my code and run again. So again, I've got a custom Gleam compiler. I've also got this new attribute, source maps true, in the Gleam TOML, and I'm using target JavaScript. It's critical to note that I'm also going to be demoing this in Node.js, not in Dino, nor the web. And additionally, I've got some interesting launch commands. Now, this demo's only in VSCode. I'm not going to explain how to do this in other editors, but you will note that I also have a custom settings JSON. And here, when I launch a debug terminal in VSCode, I update some environment variables. First off, I teach this little buddy where the Gleam bin is. Of course, I have to actually run Gleam. I have to consume this environment variable for it to do anything. And then additionally, teach it how to import this little monkey patch thingy. I monkey patch some of the Gleam standard library just to get prettier printed values in the debug pane. This step is completely optional. You do not need this custom node options. You'll see why it makes sense in a second. So I'm going to fire up a debug terminal, and I'm going to build, my app. So I'm going to do Gleam bin build. Ah, man. Of course it's not. It's not interpolating my tilde there. Let's do I think that's where it is. Yay, compiled. Cool. Now what's interesting is if I go look in my actual Gleam compiled output, for those who are interested, I can go to build dev JavaScript, of course, I think my library name, bingo. And then you can see all these map files. These map files are really important to actually getting the debug experience to work. Cool. Whoops. Now we just got to run the thing. I usually use a little task runner over here, but I'll do it in Gleam speak for us. So I'm going to run Gleam day 05 from my debug terminal, and bam, I'm on one of my debug breakpoints. So you can see I set one here and I set one here. Cool. So up here I've got what's in scope. I see day is number 5. I see sample is false. This isn't terribly interesting. You'll notice that because of the way the runtime actually gets compiled, I lost some of my source because this actually if I actually looked at the non-source map files, it'd probably be in a different function, perhaps, and have different scope. I'm actually not sure about that, but I'll figure that out later. But cool, I mean, here I am. I can run the thing. So let's step into my parse2 function. This is pretty sweet. This is a different parser function. Let's just get input. Now I want to step down into parse. That was pretty cool because you could see me go into the left-hand side of that pipe and then onto the right-hand side of that pipe. So I stepped in here, then I stepped out, and I stepped back in. And you can even do, look at that. I could have put a breakpoint right behind parse2. Incredible. Just incredible stuff. Here I've got this big old fold. Ugh, gross. Look at all that junk. Let's say that this was the step of interest and I didn't trust something on line. No worries, play up to that. Line 14, pipe 17. I mean, just incredible stuff. So here I've also done all values isn't hydrated yet. In fact, let's step up out of the parse function and then look at some values. Why don't I come back up here and just play to here. Check it out. So this is kind of interesting. You can see that it's a set, and internally the Gleam JavaScript compilation doesn't use native JS sets. It uses its dictionary types. And you can see it looks like an array. And if you don't do this, you kind of see a bunch of compiled garble here for these values. So this is where my monkey patch thing comes in, where you can see that I've grabbed an instance of the set and then extracted the prototype, the JavaScript prototype of it. And I set this magical value on the prototype called custom properties, and it's essentially a pretty printing serialization function. So I go over some of the internal entries and I just put the key on here, and now I just see the keys over here on the left. This is not a standard like JavaScript feature at all. It's a feature of the VSCode debug protocol. It's not even the debug protocol. It's a feature of the debug extension. There is some work on trying to normalize this across different JS runtimes, but that's out of scope for this conversation. I did something similar for dictionaries. So let's go to, do I have a nice dictionary in here? Well, here it is for lists. You can see it says non-empty. I made the lists look nice too. That way you just don't see a bunch of cascading stuff there. And yeah, so it's a little rambly, but whatever. There you go. You got debugging, and that is the correct answer to my advent of code. So I hope you found this interesting. Thanks.